Following filming a clip with a handheld camera on the phone, I'm having a bit more playtime with one of Ben's speed wings. Top end wind day, 24-25 knots, maybe gusting a wee bit more than that. It's an ultralight, I think it's 19 square metres. Earlier on I'd had the Mon gear out, came out just in case it was better earlier on with a tandem as well, but we haven't used that. I've also been trying out the Vertex 26. So this is just a small clip, having some fun, essentially covering harness control as usual, so it's absolute minimal use of brakes. A few wee tips and tricks. Reminding everybody, always check the airspace. It doesn't matter if you're on your own, you own the land, there's nobody else miles away, still make sure you have that habit of checking everything. Now what you don't want there is to slam the wing in the ground, just using tiny movements with the harness in the way of step to get the wing to partially out roll. Because it's got a double twist, you split it in two, done one tuck and roll, and in the second another tuck and roll. Remember, folks flying with reserves, every time you're on the ground, it doesn't matter if you're not tucking and roll, just any time you're down on the ground, always get into the habit, double check your reserve handle. Part of the training we do is we've got a whole bunch of reserves, including the big tandem one, which is actually on loan to one of the paramotor guys down south just now, till he gets a suitable weight reserve. We do a lot of training with the reserves as well as to how to kill them on windy days. So here, rather than using the brake handles, it's just showing how the very gentle, delicate touch on the brake line above the pulley is a very effective way of just giving you that wee bit extra control. It's particularly appropriate for low rated wings. If you're flying the sort of normal wings I'd fly, high ratings, competition wings, DHV 3s, 2.3s, currently it would be Ds, then the harness control will do 99% of the control. If you're flying low rated wings, particularly if it's not actually really top end wind but just about flyable conditions, then normally you do need a little bit of the brakes just to help control on pitch. Constantly looking around and checking the airspace. In this case, the airspace that's mainly of concern is vehicles. There's not that many people out walking in the park today. Now, despite the illusion it may create, I'm not really looking at the wing as such, it's just that when you're using the harness control you're turning round. And you can see over Dundee in the background, towering cumulus with some fairly heavy clouds inland. Lots of white caps. For ideal flying in these conditions, the wind is actually slightly to east, but I've been doing bits of flying on the seawall. Folks stopping for photographs. So you just make sure drivers are quite happy, giving them a sort of wave, all the rest of it, making sure you're constantly clear. Doesn't matter whether it was a public site, whether it's a private site with folks walking about, whether it's a park. Doesn't make any difference where it is, you're constantly checking, making sure you are not inconveniencing anybody else. Hopping up onto things like the benches. Again, you can see just the sheer amount of checking airspace and how very, very little you spend time looking at the wing. You're not really checking the wing at all, it's all about the harness. So half the time there I've just got my feet just off the ground, just tiptoeing along. The wing is 99% flying most of the time. See a vehicle coming along, you immediately clear, so you're on the downwind side, same as if it was somebody cycling, somebody walking. Always make sure you're not upwind or within the drag window. Just give the thumbs up to the driver, yep, everybody's happy. Ignore the wee tip collapses. It's the upper wing you're flying here. The upper wing in this case is the right wing. Keeping the wing down by using the harness, which is why I'm looking round to the windward side at the moment. Just with a tiny bit of left brake. Making sure to keep that down. constantly checking, assessing where all the other aircraft, all the other vehicles, all the other people might be. So that's probably about 30 degree, maybe slightly more crosswind here. Just wee hops up. Constantly assessing around, checking the rest of the ridge for other aircraft, other vehicles. So long before anybody, whether they're on foot, cycling or whatever, long before anybody's close to you, make sure you're always defaulting to the safety option. Despite the top end winds, normally I would actually just fly like the Vertex on year 24, 26. You might be pushing a wee bit with this wind speed, that's certainly above 20 knots. But as long as you're in the sweet spot, you're fine. And certainly higher rated wings, you've got far more control than you do on the lower rated wings. Constant assessing. When I'm flying on my own up a big mountainside, I'm still always looking round. There was a recent incident which was fairly well publicised, or starting to get better publicised on the net, where there was a paraglider in conflict in air prox with a light aircraft. Well, irrespective of powered versus non-powered aircraft, bottom line is that if you keep better lookout, you would not get into conflict. There's no point arguing about who was right or who was wrong once you're dead. Both aircraft were flying quite legally where they were, but turning effectively into the path of the powered aircraft is not what I would do. And in that particular video I would reverse my turn and cleared rather than continuing turn round to the right and conflicting. One of the general rules of aviation in conflict situations is that the aircraft which would normally have the right of way should maintain its course. So circling, even if you are thermaling, circling is not a particularly good idea if it takes you more into conflict. As you can see here, if you've let go the controls, you're still doing your tactile, visual, it's just you're not doing much audio, you're not pulling on much brake, it's just a tiny movement of the brake through, or the brake line through the brake pulley. Using the harness to keep the wing down one side when you want it, using the harness to recover it. The amount of brake travel you use when you're using the brakes is essentially just a flex of the wrists. When you're in this cross position, you've got your forearms crossed, one on either side of the riser sets, so that the wing is not trying to open the risers and spin you back round. So it's trying to teach pilots not to use lots of brakes, to use brakes. Oh, but brakes stop me. No, the brakes are things that causing you to get dragged all over the hillside and have lots of accidents and injuries. Fly it with the harness. Force and landing and hop down. So the fourth force was me just going forward into wind, adding in a little bit of thrust, which actually positions the wing both behind me, obviously it's still above, but positions it behind me, it changes the pitch from negative to positive, and the extra energy gives me that short-term climb before you get the dive. Quite quite handy for hopping over fences, etc. on a takeoff where you otherwise couldn't fly. But it's got to be done in a very controlled manner. It's not run, lots of force, anything like that. It's just enough extra energy to give you that short-term lift, and judging it so the dive takes you clear of your obstacle or lets you land on top of the post. Okay, so here we can again see just holding the wing, tiny bit of brake there needed to correct, rolling it clear of the ground friction and back up. Again, notice it's more looking around to check everything. It's not lots of looking at the wing. Now, safety riser procedure. Thrust, pushing myself into wind, generating lift, changing the pitch of the wing from negative to positive, takes me up, not too surprisingly, as you have to be positioned below and behind the wing, produces the dive. As you're diving down, the wing's going very soft, almost frontally. Ease on the safety risers, ease them off, and wing touches down. I'm just letting it go back up. If I remember correctly, I've got another one repeating. So, once again, if I'm doing it, which I think I do on this clip, it'll be safety risers in the cross position. Wait till the wing's rolled level though. There are other ways of dropping it when the wing's got a tip on the ground. Okay, so that's obviously not just now. Must be later on once I've flown the seawall that I do it again. Again, it's part of the basic training. An awful lot of training with students for the safety procedures, a lot of what to do when the conditions pick up. Coming clear of the obstacles, the bench and the pillar. Yeah, reaching for the safety risers, waiting till the wings rolls reasonably level. And I'll push my body straight into wind to lift up. Let it dive. Once I touch down, it's almost going frontally, ease on the safeties, and the wing just settles down. But it's not pulling them on, it's not grabbing them, it's not pulling on lots of them, it's just enough, just at the right time. Ease them off, let the wing lift you onto your feet. And push, dive, and dead. If it does that, I'm using the harness to control it, stepping sideways, and bing, wing sorted. I think this is onto the safety riser gather up. So put both safety risers into the safety hand, let go of the risers and having the lines instead in the hand. Yep. Looks like that's what I'm going for. Then I'll walk round. As a right-handed pilot, it's better walking round to the left, and the wind will start to roll up. There it goes, start to roll up the wingtip, killing it. It doesn't matter if it surges about because I've already got the safety risers locked in my hands. And then just like gently reeling in the fish, ease, swoop, scoop, ease, swoop, scoop. So even if you had sand in your face, you don't need to be using your eyes to do this. Much easier to teach this, of course, when students are actually there. It's not the sort of thing you can safely learn from video. You've got to have the proper training. Time for Head Along Sea Love It. My favourite coffee stall, cup of tea.